The evidence will show that Tylee and Charles fought over the bat, and that after a struggle over the bat, Tylee fell onto the ground, and Charles lifted up the bat to hit Tylee with the bat. The evidence will show you that I drove the children away from the residence towards JJ's school. Can I grab a tissue? A family tragedy is not a crime. It's a tragedy. Thank you.
Counselor cult mom getting emotional delivering her opening statement. We're talking about how Lori did on day one. Plus, a body language breakdown. What can it tell us? Our expert weighs in. Plus, the deadly stabbing of a teenager at a track meet, grabbing the nation's attention. Well, this morning, a warning from police after fake information is deliberately being spread online. Plus, hope for the future. Convicted killers Erik and Lyle Menendez speaking out ahead of their big hearing on Friday. It's all coming up next for you right here on Opening Statements. Good Tuesday morning to you and welcome to Opening Statements. I'm Julie Grant. Are you ready for some coffee and some court? We got a big show planned for you, so let's get started. Grab your coffee or tea or whatever you like in the morning or afternoon, depending on where you're watching from. It's time for my opening statement. What a sin wasting all that Kleenex. Cult mom crying in her opening statement. You know, it's funny. She didn't look upset to me the day that Charles Vallow was killed. She wasn't shedding any tears when she eloped with Mr. Doomsday after they murdered her children. So why the waterworks now? Oh, Lori, 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 you are no Meryl Streep. Nobody is believing you're acting. You saved up those crocodile tears for your jury to try to save yourself. Why? Because it's all about you. And I would go so far as to say that Lori Vallow Daybell is actually enjoying her infamy and being a murder defendant. She is not sad or remorseful about anything. Her behavior is alarming, it's narcissistic, and it's sociopathic. Charles Vallow, by all accounts, was a good, honest, kind, loving man. He didn't deserve to be killed. His boys deserved better. They didn't deserve to be robbed from their father at such a young age. His sister, Kay Woodcock, didn't deserve to be robbed of her brother when he had so many more great years ahead of him. You know, during JJ and Tylee's case, I want to show you something. I wore this bracelet that I wore again today. This is a bracelet that Larry and Kay Woodcock gave me. It says justice for Tylee, JJ, and Charles. And I am honored to be a victim, to be a voice for these victims, rather. I am honored to be a voice for Charles Vallow. You know, what happened to him was despicable. And there isn't enough focus put on the victims. All the focus is put on Lori, Lori, Lori. So what we do on this show is turn things around and put the focus on the victims. May Charles Vallow rest in peace. May he always be remembered. And may there be justice for JJ, Tylee, and Charles. That's my opening statement. Let me know if you like it. Right now, it's time for your daily docket.
My wife accused me of having been violent.
Okay. And then she, what happened? She reported to the police.
All right, here we go. Here's your daily docket, my friends. In Massachusetts, Dr. Ingolf Turk is expected to take the stand today in his murder trial. That should be interesting. Court's going to start up 9 a.m. Eastern time. In Michigan, the state's expected to rest today in the murder retrial for Linda Sturmer. That also begins at 9 a.m. Eastern. And in Las Vegas, Victoria Goodwin back in court for a negotiations hearing. She's accused of plotting to kill her husband, Ghost Adventure star Aaron Goodwin. So we'll see what happens there. Court's going to start up at 11:30 Eastern time. And now let's go to our top story. Cult Mom got through her opening statement. So how is she going to handle all the questioning of the witnesses? Well, we're going to soon find out as testimony resumes later today in her trial for conspiracy to commit the murder of Charles Vallow. As you know, she's acting as her own attorney. She gave her own opening statement, and she claimed that what happened to Charles wasn't a crime. She claims that it was spontaneous family violence sparked by what she claims was Charles's anger problems with Tylee. Take a listen.
As the state has mentioned, they're alleging that insurance money was my motive. Social Security was my motive. Spouses having insurance policies is not a crime. Collecting Social Security is not a crime. Self-defense is not a crime. A family tragedy is not a crime. It's a tragedy.
Court's going to start up at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. There's a 30-minute delay on this case. So right now, let's talk about what you think of Lori's lawyering. I have two great attorney guests I want to welcome on now, Randolph Rice and Mario Gallucci. Good morning, gentlemen. Okay, we thought it would be a great idea if we graded Cult Mom. We did this in a segment before. Our Courties loved it. So Courties at home, get your grades ready. Send them to us on social media. How do you two think she did in the open? If this was trial advocacy class, Randolph Rice, what would you give Lori?
Well, I'd give her opening probably somewhere around a D. And because this whole, the evidence will show, I think that was distracting the whole time to the jury, because the evidence will show that these things that she's saying probably aren't true. So that's ultimately going to be the disconnect that they're going to have between her opening and what the evidence will not show.
Will not show. Yeah, I know, Randolph. I had Courties tweeting me, and you know how much we love our Courties, and they were saying, like, we should play a drinking game. Everybody take a drink every time she says the evidence will show, because it was just exactly drink your coffee, Randolph. Yeah, it was an amateur move, but I will say this: I'm sure you both have seen other lawyers do that, and I've seen it before. I said on Twitter, I've seen lawyers do way worse than what Cult Mom did yesterday. So I think she just watched some bad lawyering and emulated it. But I like the grade. So Randolph is going with a D. Mario Gallucci, what are you going with for her?
I agree with Randolph. I'll give her a D, and the only reason why I'm going to give her the D is because she did get up and she did do it, and she did not appear nervous. Half of the battle is just being able to get up, stand up, and talk to people. But the message she's delivering, she has to back up with the testimony at the trial. And it's certainly not going to happen. And the prosecutor, in their summation, is going to point to that. So, I give it a D for her effort and ability to stand up there, but her content is woefully off.
Yes, you're so right. I told my team this morning if I had to grade her, I would give her a C-. So I'm going to be a little more generous than you gentlemen. And the only reason why I am giving her that much is because at least she told a story. And I'm sure you both have seen this when lawyers just get up there and they just rattle off things and it's boring as ever. It was a story full of lies in my view, but at least it was a story. So I'll give her a C- for the open. She got very emotional at one point, as I was noting in my opening statement. So I want to go back and play the moment for you both and see what you think, if these were crocodile tears or not. Take a look.
The evidence will show that Tylee and Charles fought over the bat, and that after a struggle over the bat, Tylee fell onto the ground, and Charles lifted up the bat to hit Tylee with the bat. The evidence will show that Alex then intervened to protect Tylee from being hit with the bat. He did not have a gun. The evidence will show that at some point while I was running away from Charles, who was chasing me with the bat, that Alex apparently retrieved his gun. The evidence will show that I ran outside to the children and that Alex shot Charles in self-defense.
Okay, how we wish we had a straight-on camera shot of her, right? We were all back here at Court TV saying, unfortunately, it's just where our cameras have to be positioned per the court order. But what do you two think? The tears, Randolph, real crocodile?
Oh, they're Crocodile. And remember, this is a jury, if I'm not mistaken, of 10 men. And she believes after she takes off that aluminum foil hat when she goes in the courtroom every morning that she somehow has the ability to emotionally convince these men by, playing this victim and crying with the crocodile tears, that somehow she's telling the truth because she's emotional up there. But it really is just an act. And so I think they're going to see through it as this trial goes forward. And remember, she's acting as her own lawyer, so they get to see her emotion as she moves through this. If she's not crying as she's asking questions of witnesses, it's going to be a lot of different story.
Yeah, very true, very true. And we know we're going back in time when all this was happening. We're going back during the pandemic, and she wasn't shedding any tears there. Mario, what do you think? Did she make a mistake by what appears to be feigning emotion?
So, this is her day in the stars. She wants to be a celebrity. This is her moment under the bright lights. I agree again with Randolph. This is her moment. She wants to become a celebrity. She thinks as a result of this trial, she's going to become a celebrity. I don't think she has a care in the world whether she's convicted or not. I think that she wants to use this apparatus to propel herself to stardom. That's what I'm thinking she's doing here.
I think you're exactly right,
I think
Mario.
the jury will see right through that.
Yeah. She likes this, doesn't she? She likes this attention. And it's hard for all of us to understand because, her kids are dead. Her fourth husband, who was a wonderful man, is dead. Her fifth husband's first wife is dead. They're all dead. Her brother, Alex Cox, is dead. And many of us still haven't let that one go either, that he dies, shortly after this incident. I've got a clip from the States Open talking about the conspiracy with him. Let's watch.
Ladies and gentlemen, the evidence in this case is going to show you that Lori Vallow, Daybell, conspired with her brother, Alex Cox, to kill her husband, Charles Vallow.
And we've had members of Lori's family on the show. We love having Adam Cox, her brother on, her uncle Rex Connor, wonderful people. Lori, we don't know where she came from, but they're disgusted with her behavior. And they've told me on this program how they think it's very suspicious. They really weren't satisfied with these findings about Alex's death because it just seems like, how does this healthy guy just, collapse suddenly after all this? Randolph, I'd love your thoughts on that. Do you find his death suspicious, even though it was ruled natural?
The wake of the SS Lori Daybell is just incredible, the amount of people that she has affected. And I always did find that very suspicious. With all the other deaths that are going on, that all of a sudden Alex somehow has a natural cause death. Remember, Alex is a key part to this case, and not having him there certainly can, in some arguments, help Lori. So, because there's nobody there to testify as to that self-defense, so you can put that thought in the mind of the jury. So, yes, I've always thought that was very strange.
Right, Randolph. Even, like I said, 2 members of Lori's family think so. Alex Cox, before he died, was afraid something bad was going to happen to him. It's like he knew. There was testimony to that end, from people close to him. Mario, do you think, is it possible, even with that ruling, that things could be re-examined and maybe we get to the point of charging?
Absolutely. Things change. Things in a trial are fluid. She has the ability to open the door into something that is not coming in, and then prosecutor's going to make an argument that, hey, she opened the door, so now I can get into this testimony or this evidence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you said it, Mario. I wonder if we're going to learn something that's going to enlighten us about Alex's death. We're not done talking about Lori. Mario and Randolph are coming with us. We're going to hit our first break, though. Get some more coffee. When we return, we're going to have a breakdown of Cult Mom's body language. That is coming up. Plus,
Your Honor, in this case, we have received a copy of the indictment. We will waive oral reading of it. I reviewed it with Dr. Koenig, and we will be entering a plea of not guilty and asking that the matter be set for jury trial.
The Hawaii doctor who allegedly tried to kill his wife by pushing her off a hiking trail in court for his arraignment. But will his case actually go to trial? We'll discuss it next.
Doomsday cult mom is now lawyer Lori.
She's representing herself
on charges of conspiring to murder her fourth husband.
She said, I can murder you now.
The Cult Mom Conspiracy Trial. Live coverage today, only on Court TV. This week.
The Doomsday Cult Mom defending herself. We're previewing each day for you in the high-stakes conspiracy trial for Lori Vallow Daybell.
Opening statements with Julie Grant. Mornings at 8, 7 Central on Court TV.
Welcome back. Now for what's trending in true crime. Authorities are warning of misinformation deliberately being spread online in the case of the stabbing death of a high school student who was killed at a track meet. 17-year-old Carmelo Anthony is currently charged with first-degree murder in the death of Austin Metcalf. Now, he's being held on $1 million bond, and police say that Anthony told them that he did it and asked officers if it could be considered self-defense. So now police are warning that there's incorrect and possibly very damaging information being spread online about the incident. So we're asking, what kind of effect can fake information have on a case? Let's talk about it. Let's bring back in attorneys Mario Gallucci and Randolph Rice. Mario, to you first, please. Your thoughts.
So, I've been doing this over 3 decades, and social media has now become one of the number one impediments to picking a jury. People hear things on social media, they go running with it, and it's the job of the judge now during jury selection to ensure that the people that are reading it or following it or doing whatever they're doing on social media are not chosen to be on your jury. The evidence is coming from the chair that's in the courtroom, not from Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok.
Right. You're so right, Mario. And sometimes, and I often encounter this with my job, because when people meet me or friends and loved ones who know me, they want to talk about cases and they'll say, oh, I saw this. And I'll say, that's not true. Where did you see that? Oh, I saw it on TikTok. Some creator said it. Well, they made it up. That's not true. I can tell you, you can take what I'm saying to the bank. And it just shows you how powerful now, to your point, Mario, social is. Randolph, your thoughts on this, please weigh in if you would.
Yeah, I think Mario's exactly correct. This is a great example of why the Karen Reed case is taking 2+ weeks to pick a jury, because it is so much coverage. There's so much information. There's so many jurors that have heard about it versus the case that we're involved with, which is the Rachel Morin case, which had very little information about the case, and they were able to pick a jury in a day and a half. So that information out there taints that jury pool and can help, or it can actually hinder the process when the case goes to trial.
You're so right. Randolph, I got to say, you are my hero for bringing that up about the Karen Reed case. That is the first thing I thought about when I read this story, and I kept thinking, how I wish those police and prosecutors, and maybe they wish so too, I don't know. I wish they would have come out, issued some official statements about the disinformation, because in her case, there has been a deliberate disinformation campaign out there to infect the public with wrong information. And so, too late now. Bad information's out there. I see it every day, but thank you for the acknowledgement of that. We'll follow the stabbing case and any updates as they come. Mr. Anthony is being held on $1 million bond, and so we'll provide any updates if that bond is lowered. In the meantime, we want to turn to some other big trending news as the Hawaii doctor charged with the attempted murder of his wife made his first court appearance on Monday, pleading not guilty. This is 46-year-old Gerhard Koenig. A look at him yesterday. We can see this shot. This is via Zoom of the courtroom where he appeared. He is accused of trying to push his wife off of a steep hiking trail. His attorney filed an objection over the fact that he's being held without any bond. Take a listen.
At this time, we would like to lodge an objection to the fact that Dr. Koenig is being held without bail. As the court is aware, it's pretty commonplace in attempted murder and murder cases over the last 10 years that at least some degree of bail would be set. We see no reason why this case would be any different, especially given the fact that Dr. Koenig has no prior record.
They're going to take up the matter with the trial judge at his next hearing, which is in May, and the judge tentatively set his trial date for June. So here's what we want to know. Is it likely that this case is actually going to go to trial? Randolph, your thoughts on that, please.
Well, there's a lot of facts, and some of them are bad for the doctor. And I got to say right now, between this case and Dr. Turk, what is going on with all these doctors being charged with crimes, with murders and attempted murders? But there are a lot of bad facts going on right now with this case, and there's some witnesses at the park where this apparently happened. There's a syringe that was allegedly used. He's an anesthesiologist, so I'm sure there were blood tests that were conducted. So the facts are not good right now, but again, this is very early, so we've got a lot to learn in this case.
Yes, Randolph, great points. Mario, to you next, please. What do you think here? So his wife is home recovering, out of the hospital, has a restraining order against him. He can't go near her or the kids. Do you see this one playing out with a trial or perhaps with a plea agreement?
So in any case where you have to do an evaluation of how strong the evidence is, and if there's a plea bargain in place, whether your client should or should not accept that. And in this case, you have witnesses other than the victim who see her getting struck by the rock. You have the allegation that he was using a syringe to insert her with some sort of chemical. He does have the access as an anesthesiologist to the drugs. He took her on a trail in Honolulu that's closed to the public because of its dangerousness. It all doesn't make much sense and doesn't look very good for the defendant in this case. But, you know, like Randolph just said, this is just an arraignment. We got a long way to go. We don't have all the discovery in the matter, and let's see what comes out.
Mm-hmm. Right. And help me out here. Both of you do criminal defense work. And if you were, let's just say, you're representing Gerhard Koenig, what might be the next step? So he's being held without any bond. We know that there is going to be a push to try to get him some kind of a bond or some kind of pretrial release that everybody finds acceptable. But beyond that, maybe in the way of asking for a type of plea agreement, Randolph, what would you do?
Well, my first step is I'm filing a habeas, which is a motion to the higher court to ask them to reevaluate his bond and say to the court, look, he has no record. There are means and methods in which we can use to make sure he has no contact with his wife and children, either a home detention at a family member's house somewhere else. And then I'm starting a conversation with the prosecutor, maybe starting to say, hey, look, what information can you provide now? That I would guess the prosecutors don't have all the discovery, the documents ready to start sending to the defense, but maybe start that conversation early on as a negotiating tactic, just to sort of see where they are in their position in this case.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great points, Randolph. Mario, curious what you would do. Weigh in, please.
So if you have a couple that are going on vacation to Honolulu, one would assume that they're in a very nice relationship. To this, there was some allegations of infidelity. I would get my investigator out there right now to start interviewing witnesses and find out what was going on behind the scenes. There's a reason why you go from happy, loving couple on vacation to Hawaii to I want to push my. So there's something going on there, and until my investigator gets some information, I need the weapons in my toolbox in order to go to a prosecutor and see where we're at.
Yeah, excellent points. Mario Gallucci, Randolph Rice, you know we love having you both on this program. Thank you for making time for us this morning. We'll see you back here very soon. We're going to hit a break. My friends, still to come here on Opening Statements.
Can you answer the question?
Yes.
Okay, it was you telling Lyle what?
My dad had been molesting me.
There was no reason to lie. Clearly, he was coming to me, wanted me to do something about it.
The Menendez brothers speaking out from prison ahead of their big hearing this Friday. That's next. And what can Lori's body language tell us? Our expert joins us live.
The key issue of exhibiting insight, full insight into their crimes, and completely accepting responsibility for their actions. This is where the Menendezes, like Sirhan, also fall short.
This morning, we're shining a spotlight on the Menendez brothers' continuing quest for freedom as they're preparing for a hearing on Friday. The convicted killers firing back at DA Nathan Hochman for comparing them to Sirhan. TMZ releasing an exclusive conversation with Lyle and Erik from behind bars. The Menendez brothers, the prison interview hit the airwaves last night. Maybe you saw it. And after more than 3 decades in prison, these guys revealed to TMZ they are hopeful with their outlook for the future.
Hope for the future is really kind of a new thing for us, I think. I think Erik would probably agree with that. It's not something that we spend a lot of time on. I'm striving to be a better person every day, and I want to be a person that my family can be proud of.
The 360-degree evaluation of where they are, where they've been, and where they're going to be is incredible.
Their entire life, they've been spoiled. They've been coddled, and they've always got what they want, and this is just something they want. They want to get out of prison.
Who I've evolved into, who I've seen Lyle evolve into. I'm beginning to like myself and be proud of myself and find it okay to like myself. You never know how long you've been blessed to be on the earth, so we don't just sit around waiting for something.
And Erik and Lyle are, in fact, waiting for something. They're waiting for a decision from Governor Gavin Newsom and the California Parole Board on their possible future as free men. So how will this latest interview affect their parole hearing in June? And what in the world's going to happen on Friday when we get to that potential resentencing hearing? The DA's indicated unless they come clean and really own up and drop the self-defense claims, will they then reconsider the idea of them being resentenced? So here with us to talk about all things Menendez mania, entertainment journalist Shishi Yang is back with us. Shishi, good morning. Always great to have you on the show. Take us to California, where you are. What is the feeling from the people there, the sentiment for these guys?
Good morning, Julia. LA is definitely very, very divided on this issue because it's a really interesting case study that now spans across 3 different generations. You have the boomers who still remember watching the courtroom drama, watching the media frenzy unfold in real life. You have millennials that know the Menendez brothers from watching the documentary specials such as the TMZ one that aired last night, and Gen Z that consumes a lot of true crime cases on TikTok. So it definitely depends on who you ask. But what I think is so important about the case is it really speaks so loudly about how much our world has changed, how much our culture has shifted, what our perception, our perspective have changed on child abuse, on sexual abuse, criminal rehabilitation. I know one thing's for sure. Everyone is going to be waiting to watch the hearing this Friday.
Shishi, I love that answer and all of your analysis there. As you know, in the TMZ doc, the Menendez brothers pushed back really hard on your new DA in Los Angeles, Nathan Hochman. And in particular, they pushed back on his comparison with them to Sirhan, who shot and killed Robert F. Kennedy, as we know. I want to play a clip of Nathan Hochman. This was back in March, and he was talking about the ever-changing stories of the Menendez brothers, because it seems that the DA's office really has a problem with the lying, the suborning perjury, the fabrication of evidence. And the DA even said, you know, if they would just come clean and own up to having done this in cold blood, not in self-defense as they claim, then perhaps he would consider recommending resentencing. Let's take a look.
So if the Menendezes go ahead and want to, at any point, whether it's today, whether it's weeks from now, months from now, or years from now, finally and unequivocally express that they and acknowledge the lies that they have told and persisted in for over 30 years, then we will certainly evaluate the quality of that sincerity and decide whether or not it's real or fake, whether or not it's just designed to get out of jail, or whether or not they truly believe and acknowledge the full breadth of the crimes and lies they have told in deciding what to do at that point. And as importantly, the court will have to make that decision, and that decision is the court and the courts alone to make.
Shishi, tell us, how is D.A. Hochman being received in his new position in L.A.?
This is just another reflection of how politics plays such a big part, because I know this DA is very gung-ho about keeping them behind bars. The previous one really wanted to give them a second chance, wanted to set them free in consideration of some of the new rules here in California, the new laws, and even the Menendez brothers legal team, their whole angle is that if they were tried nowadays with the new laws, the new rules, and our world's new perspective on childhood trauma, sexual abuse, criminal rehabilitation, they wouldn't have had the same outcome that they did 35 years ago. But the real question comes down to, just because our perception of all these issues have changed, does that have the power to change a ruling from before? I guess we're all going to have to wait and see.
Shishi, you're right. Then we have Governor Gavin Newsom, of course. He is the third part of this equation, as you know, who could grant them clemency. He's having the risk assessment done right now to see just what kind of a risk Lyle and Erik would be if they are integrated back into the public. Let's take a listen to some of what the governor said on his podcast.
Yes, celebrity weighs. It has an impact. But in what direction does it weigh? Sometimes it's used actually against people because they're so high profile. They're actually held to a higher level of scrutiny and standards. At the same time, you don't want that celebrity also to influence on the other side. So it's a balancing act, but I'm deeply mindful of it. And that's why it's critical that our team independently stress test the nature of celebrity. And that's why I move forward with the Board of Parole hearings to independently review with a group of experts, forensic psychologists, and others the facts of this case.
Okay, Shishi, is Gavin Newsom feeling the pressure on this?
Absolutely. And I think it was really interesting to see how much Governor Newsom have really taken a stance, even in the documentary, in the specials airing on TMZ last night. You know, this is a very polarizing issue. So for him to come on board saying that, you know, we should give the brothers a chance. They have shown 35 years of incredible growth, criminal rehabilitation. It's really amazing. And even myself, watching the documentary last night, I quickly realized that it wasn't just about the crime. It's more about what happens after the crime. And just to hear how they spoke about the amount of work that they've been doing behind bars. They have launched a hospice program. They have counseled inmates. They've even obtained advanced college degrees, all without hope of ever being set free. That's really incredible growth. But is this growth enough to give them a second chance? That is going to be the million-dollar question here.
You're so right. Shishi Yang, we love having you on Opening Statements. Thank you for waking up early to join us from the West Coast. We'll look forward to having you back very soon. And still ahead here on Opening Statements, here's what's coming up.
The evidence will show you that I drove the children away from the residence towards JJ's school. Can I grab a tissue?
Lying, crying, Lori Vallow gave her opening statement in her homicide trial in Arizona, and she started getting very emotional at one point. And guess what we're doing? We're bringing in Susan Constantine next to talk about what Lori's body language tells us.
This week,
the doomsday cult mom defending herself. We're previewing each day for you in the high-stakes conspiracy trial for Lori Vallow Daybell.
Opening Statements with Julie Grant. Mornings at 8/7 Central on Court TV.
What did you think when the media dubbed you the National Forest serial killer?
I think I prefer the Beast of Blood Mountain.
Interview with a Killer. New season premieres Sunday at 8. Only on Court TV.
Now for what's tipping the scales in the murder conspiracy trial of Lori Vallow Daybell. What can counselor Cult Mom's body language tell us? Well, we know she got very emotional during her opening statement, or at least appeared to get emotional. She also looked quite professional. She had a nice blazer on, her curled hair, red glasses, and she was wearing lipstick. She looked great. The big question this morning, what did the jury think of Lori? Here to talk about that, jury consultant and human behavior expert, Susan Constantine is here. Susan, good morning to you. Let's start, if we can, with the opening statement. Lori talked a lot about her kids, Tylee and JJ, as if they weren't dead. I know this is something you picked up on. I have a clip for you. Let's take a look.
When she became a teenager, the relationship between Tylee and her stepfather, Charles, became so difficult that Tylee and Charles had to seek a therapist, a family therapist, to stop them from fighting. The evidence will show that JJ was diagnosed with severe autism when he was 3 years old while we lived in Hawaii. The evidence will show that for 2 years, JJ was attending a school in Gilbert, Arizona, a special school for children with autism.
Now, we know the children are very much dead. And Susan, off camera yesterday, you were sharing with our team how that was something that really jumped out to you right away. Tell us why.
The reason why is that when someone has passed, you speak about them in past tense. My children were, or Tylee was, or anything in the past tense. So when you're speaking about someone in present tense as if they're still alive when they are deceased, this is a deceptive indicator. These are what we look for in pronoun shifts. So anytime it's incongruent with what we know as the facts, and the fact that she is actually presenting the children in present tense is highly deceptive.
Oh, wow. Susan, never thought of it that way. Never thought of it that way. But okay, so this is helpful to know. So deception there. What about her repetitive statement, those 4 words, the evidence will show? Here's a clip.
The evidence will show that Charles and Tylee's fighting increased greatly in January of 2019. The evidence will show that Alex then intervened to protect Tylee from being hit with the bat. The evidence will show that Alex and Charles got into a physical struggle for the bat and fell onto the ground. The evidence will show that I asked the detectives, what should we do next?
Susan, our courty friends were saying we should do a drinking game every time Lori says the evidence will show. Where do you think she got that from?
I'm sure that she read it in a book, or she heard it in court, or that her attorney the attorney that is helping her has advised her advocate. And she did a good job. For the most part, she did a good job. The problem was it was overplayed. And so when you overplay a statement over and over again, it actually dilutes the statement. So she was using what we call NLP, neuro-linguistic programming strategies. So she was trying to anchor that jury by embedding these commands that that the evidence will prove. So when we're looking at all of that, it's suggestibility. So do we use that in court? Do I advise attorneys when I'm working with them on their case strategy? Yes, but not when it's being repeated multiple times. In fact, it was one of those phrases that when I went to bed last night, all I could hear was that same thing over and over and over again, and I couldn't get to sleep. So, it was it was definitely overplayed.
Oh, Susan, one of the hazards of the job, hearing Lori Vallow's words playing over and over again in your head. How about I want to direct your attention now to the $1 million moment where Cult Mom started crying. Let's take a look. And so I'm being told that this is just video. We're not going to play the sound attached to it, just the video. And Susan, we'll just let you take it from here. What's going on?
Yeah, so she's a bit disoriented. When she's kind of shifting around, she kind of loses her footing. And when you see these anchor shifts, like when the body actually shifts from side to side, she's looking obviously for a tissue. She has crocodile tears. These are not like she's really crying her eyes out. But this was an emotional moment. And some of it was truthful. I mean, when you look at her face, because I'm looking at the psychophysiology, her face is flushed. When your face is flushed, it creates these kind of cognitive load, and you might see this flushing in their face. However, when we're looking at the dabbing of the tears, it does seem a bit performance. And when we're looking at that, I think that she got herself in a little bit of a trap when she was talking about dropping one of her children off at school. It could have triggered a feeder memory, and when that happened, maybe it was the last time she saw her, and she's not exempt from maybe feeling some guilt or shame for that moment. So, that's what I saw when I looked at her body language. She had stressors in her forehead, horizontal lines. That's just cognitive load, anxiety, and stress.
Mm-hmm. This is so helpful. Susan, I could listen to you all day. We have time for some more analysis here. So help us with the optics, if you would, kindly. How Lori looked. What'd you think?
Yeah, so I think that she really carried herself off well for someone that is a non-attorney. As you stated, she was dressed in a suit. She was wearing a collared shirt. Her clothing was professional. However, what dilutes it, and I've seen this oftentimes, even with defense attorneys, women that are very beautiful, they've got blonde hair, and they curl their hair. And when they do that, it actually does not provide the command that they need when they're speaking in front of the jury. So why did she curl her little trussels? And I would suggest it was because she wanted to appeal to those male jurors.
Ooh, that's good, Susan. That's good. Yeah, and it can be distracting, right? She's got a lot of hair. It's beautiful. It's long. It's the curls, but at least the way I was taught, I was a trout team kid. We were taught never do anything distracting. We weren't even allowed to wear a ponytail. It was like, put it in a bun, something, get it off your face so nobody is looking at your hair. If she were to improve, what would you say? Smooth it out, make it straight, or tie it back? What do you think would be best for her?
Well, certainly not with what we call this little baby ponytail that sometimes she wears. It's a little odd, but I definitely would soften it. I think that maybe just a softer, more natural look, not to where she looked like she spent an hour curling her hair. And when we look at defendants, and I always recommend women should always have some sort of bend in their hair. Why? Because it creates softness. So I'm big into the softness part of it. The problem is it's overplayed. So what I would have recommended is that she would have probably softened it up, not way back, more natural, and then pulled probably that part back off of her face, because as you stated, that anytime you have hair that is down around the face, it is a distractor. It's also a shield. So we often see men with facial hair or women's hair that is covering the sides of their face. It can also make a person feel like they're trying to hide something. And it's not that that's been proven in research. It's just the optics, right? Now, she's got that little baby ponytail. We see it in the front. So she pulls her hair back like that. However, I think that it could have been a little bit less coiffed, and it creates this movement with her hands, and she's moving her hair off of her face, and then she's pulling her glasses off and tapping her eyes. All of these are distractors. Number one key, keep your hands off your face and keep your hands out of your hair. And if it's in your hair, then you need to do something to get it away and keep it there.
Right. Susan, you're so right. And for anybody wondering, we found out Cult Mom uses wet towels. She sleeps with damp towels at night to make those curls. And she was able to buy the makeup at the commissary in Arizona. Some states apparently sell makeup in the prison commissaries, and that's how she got the lipstick and whatever else she was wearing. Susan Constantine, we have to leave it there for now. Thank you so much for the great insight and for coming on with us. We'll look forward to talking more as this trial continues progressing. And my friends, that is all for this episode of Opening Statements. You can watch it or share it again if you like. Go to courttv.com to do that. Click on the Shows tab. When we come back, we're going to progress to Massachusetts for the trial against Dr. Ingolf Turk. Will today be the day he takes the stand in his own defense?